They said humanity would forgive. That was the first mistake the aliens made. For centuries, they looked at humans as emotional, weak, and merciful creatures. They believed humans could be hurt, broken, and later tamed with words of peace. But what they never understood was that forgiveness was not weakness. It was warning. It was the quiet before something greater. It was the silence before the storm. The invasion had ended years ago, yet the wounds were still fresh. Half of Earth's cities were gone, burned under plasma fire and orbital bombardments. The invaders had promised order and peace. They said the destruction was necessary to make humans understand their place. Millions were taken as slaves to distant mining colonies. Entire families were separated, and history was rewritten to make humanity forget what it once was. But they miscalculated one thing. Humans never forget. Not pain, not loss, and never betrayal. The Galactic Council believed humanity would rebuild under their control. They placed governors in every remaining city, watching every human action, every word. The Council's ships floated above the skies as symbols of dominance. To the aliens, humanity had become obedient. To humans, it was only the surface. Beneath that silence, something ancient was awakening. Something that had slept inside every human since the beginning of time. The humans who survived the wars started calling themselves the broken ones. They were the remnants of old armies, engineers, scientists, and dreamers. They hid in shadows, pretending loyalty to the Council, while secretly rebuilding what was lost. They gathered old technology, decoded alien data, and whispered one promise among themselves. Humanity will never kneel again. No one knew who gave the first order, or who lit the first spark. But one night, across the dark side of the planet, a signal pulsed through abandoned satellites. It was not a message of peace. It was a countdown. The aliens who intercepted it could not understand its meaning. The humans who saw it smiled for the first time in years. The time for forgiveness was over. The age of silence was ending. In the deserts of Mars, human colonies that had gone dark years ago suddenly came online. In the icy rings of Saturn, old mining stations turned into hidden shipyards. In the ruins of old Earth, engineers worked under the cover of night, building something far greater than the aliens could imagine. Humanity was not preparing for survival anymore. It was preparing for payback. The Galactic Council noticed the unusual energy spikes, the missing cargo ships, the strange transmissions from the outer systems, but they dismissed them as rumors. After all, humans were supposed to be incapable of large-scale rebellion. They were too emotional, too divided, too fragile. That arrogance blinded them from the truth. They thought humanity would pardon. But humans were writing a different kind of language, one that required no words. Years passed in silence. The Council grew comfortable again. They celebrated the age of control, believing the human spirit had finally been tamed. But under their own supply routes and colonies, humanity's new fleet was taking shape. These ships were not massive like the alien dreadnoughts, but they were fast, silent, and lethal. Every piece of metal used to build them carried a story of pain. Melted weapons from fallen soldiers, recycled armor from destroyed tanks, memories of every loss turned into something deadly. The humans didn't just rebuild. They evolved. Deep within the shadows of Jupiter's orbit, an ancient station known as Helios 9 came alive again. It was once an observatory, but now it had become the beating heart of the human resistance. From there, coded orders spread across the solar system. They called themselves the Voice of Earth. They were not interested in politics or mercy. Their mission was simple: to remind the galaxy what humanity truly was. The Galactic Council received their first message in the form of wreckage. One of their patrol fleets vanished near Neptune. When they investigated, they found nothing but silent debris, ships torn apart with precision. There were no escape pods, no distress calls, no survivors. On the largest fragment of the command ship, 3 words were burned into the hull: "We remember everything." Panic began to spread among the council leaders. They accused one another of losing control, but deep down they knew what was happening. Humanity had begun to fight back. And it wasn't fighting like before. There were no grand speeches, no desperate alliances, and only quiet, calculated strikes. Every attack carried a message, and every message carried the same meaning. Forgiveness had expired. The council sent diplomats to Earth pretending to negotiate peace. But the humans they met were not the same ones they had conquered. These humans spoke less, observed more, and their eyes carried a silence that was more terrifying than words. The aliens couldn't understand it. The humans weren't showing rage or hatred anymore. They were calm, and that calmness frightened them more than any weapon could. As days passed, more alien outposts began disappearing. Data centers were erased, communication lines went dark, and colonies were left without power. It was not chaos, it was strategy. Humanity was speaking in the only language the invaders understood: force. Rumors started to travel through the galaxy, stories of human ghosts attacking from nowhere, striking and vanishing before sensors could detect them. Some said these humans were enhanced with stolen alien tech. Others claimed they had discovered something ancient buried beneath the earth. But the truth was simpler. Humanity had learned. Every loss, every death, every defeat had become part of their evolution. The Council finally deployed their largest weapon, the Echelon Armada, a fleet so massive it could block out a planet's sun. They sent it toward Earth, believing they could crush the rebellion once and for all. The galaxy watched, certain that this was the end of humanity. But humanity had one last surprise. When the Armada reached Earth, they found no resistance. The planet was silent. The skies were empty. Scanners showed no fleets, no weapons, no life signals. The Council's commanders laughed, thinking humanity had run or surrendered. They sent landing forces to reclaim the capital ruins. But when the first ships entered orbit, every system aboard began to fail. Power grids flickered, targeting systems went blind, and engines shut down one by one. Within minutes, hundreds of ships drifted powerless, trapped in orbit. Then came the message, not from any human channel, but from the ships themselves. The Council officers heard it echo through every speaker, every frequency, every ship. A simple, calm voice spoke. Forgiveness was the warning. This is the response. Before the aliens could react, Earth's magnetic field shifted. Hidden satellites and deep core reactors came online simultaneously. What looked like an abandoned planet had turned into a weapon. A wave of energy, unseen but unstoppable, spread across space. The first wave crippled the alien fleet. The second erased their communications. The third destroyed their command systems. In less than an hour, the most powerful armada in the galaxy became nothing but glowing wreckage. The humans didn't celebrate. They didn't cheer. They simply watched as the symbols of alien dominance fell from the sky. For them, this was not victory, and it was justice. The Council had forced humanity to its knees once, but now, humanity had risen stronger than ever. They had learned that mercy without memory is slavery, and peace without power is illusion. The few alien survivors who managed to escape carried a message back to the Council worlds. They said the humans didn't fight like any species they had ever faced. They fought with precision, patience, and purpose. They didn't shout their anger. They whispered it through silence, through strategy, through power. And the most terrifying part was that they never asked for peace again. The galaxy finally began to understand the truth. Humanity was not seeking forgiveness anymore. It had learned to speak the only language the galaxy truly respected, the language of power, and this was only the beginning. The destruction of the Echelon Armada sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council had ruled for 10,000 years, yet in a single day, a once-conquered species had torn down their greatest symbol of power. Every race that had bowed before the Council watched in disbelief. Whispers began to spread, whispers of humans, the quiet ones, the broken ones who had risen again. But humanity did not celebrate victory. On Earth, the skies were still dark with ashes from the fallen ships. The oceans glowed faintly from the debris. People looked up not with joy, but with calm determination. They knew this was not the end. This was only the first answer. The Council would return, and next time, they would bring everything they had. In the years that followed, humanity changed faster than ever. The scientists who once built weapons now built unity. Every human colony, from Mars to the moons of Jupiter, came together under one banner. Not for revenge, but for survival with pride. The old nations of Earth no longer existed. There was no north or south, no east or west. There was only one name that mattered: human. The voice of Earth transformed into a full command network. They rebuilt what was left of the alien technology and combined it with human creativity. Their ships no longer looked like alien copies. They had become something new, something uniquely human, sharp, fast, silent, built for precision rather than show. They carried no flags, no symbols, no mercy. They carried only purpose. The Galactic Council tried to hide their fear behind arrogance. They declared the human attacks an act of rebellion and sent new fleets larger and stronger. But they never reached Earth. Somewhere between the stars, those fleets vanished, not destroyed in battle, but erased from existence. The Council realized that the humans were not fighting an open war anymore. They were dismantling the Council's power, one piece at a time. Human intelligence had grown beyond anything the Council expected. They had learned how to break communication systems, hijack command networks, and turn enemy machines against their creators. Entire planetary defenses of the Council suddenly turned their weapons inward. Their own ships began firing on each other without reason. Panic spread through their ranks and fear turned to confusion. Everywhere the Council looked, they saw the same mark left behind, a silent signal, a burning pattern carved into metal, always saying the same thing: we remember everything. It was not revenge for the past anymore. It was correction for the future. The galaxy had lived too long under the illusion that mercy was weakness. Humanity had come to remind them that mercy must be earned, not demanded. Soon, reports came from the outer systems that the Council's own colonies were rebelling. Dozens of species that had suffered for centuries under their control began to rise, inspired by humanity's defiance. The galaxy that once laughed at humans now looked to them for courage. The balance of power began to shift, but humanity did not seek to lead anyone. They did not form empires or demand allegiance. They had seen what power did to others. They simply acted with purpose, destroyed tyranny, then disappear. They became a force of balance, a shadow of justice. The Council called them ghosts. The smaller races called them saviors. Humanity called themselves survivors. On the Council's capital world, fear turned into desperation. Their leaders gathered, debating how a species they once enslaved could rise so fast. They called it impossible, unnatural. But what they never understood was that humans had something the Council never could create: memory fueled by emotion. Every human action was tied to meaning, every strike tied to loss. They did not fight for domination. They fought for the right to exist with dignity. In secret, the Council began building their final weapon, the Celestial Throne, a superstructure designed to wipe out entire star systems in a single pulse. They planned to use it on Earth, to erase humanity once and for all. But before they could finish, the humans found them. The voice of Earth had learned patience. They watched silently as the weapon grew, tracking every signal, every shipment. When the Council prepared to activate the throne, humanity was already inside it. No one saw the attack coming. There was no warning, no massive fleet approaching, only silence. Then, in a single moment, the stars around the capital flickered and vanished. The Council's communication network failed. Their defenses went offline. For the first time in their long rule, they were blind. A single human transmission appeared on their central display. It was not a speech, not a threat. Just a single sentence: forgiveness is not peace. It is the pause before justice. Then the Celestial Throne turned against its masters. The weapon designed to destroy Earth unleashed its energy inward, collapsing in on itself. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from the edge of the galaxy. The Council world vanished, leaving only dust and silence. For days, no one knew what had happened. When the truth reached the surviving colonies, no one celebrated. The age of the Council was over, but so was the age of arrogance. Humanity had shown that fear could no longer control the stars. After the fall of the Council, the galaxy stood at a crossroad. Dozens of species, once divided by oppression, now stood free but uncertain. They waited for humanity to declare dominance, to claim leadership, to build an empire. But humanity did something no one expected. They turned away. The fleets that had destroyed the Council simply disappeared into deep space. No one knew where they went. Some said they returned to Earth to rebuild. Others believed they went beyond known space, searching for peace in the silence between galaxies. But one thing was clear: humanity was done fighting for survival. Now they were fighting for meaning. Years passed and the legend of humanity grew. Alien children learned stories of the humans who turned pain into power. They spoke of the day the skies burned over the Council world and a new dawn rose. They said humanity did not conquer. They reminded the galaxy what strength truly was. Across the stars, the ruins of the Council became memorials. Carved into their remains were words written in human script. We forgive, but we never forget. In time, new civilizations rose, shaped by the lessons humanity left behind. Power became more than control, it became responsibility. Mercy became more than weakness, and it became wisdom. And the story of humanity became more than history, it became a warning. Back on Earth, centuries later, the planet was peaceful again. The skies were clear, the oceans calm, and the people free. Yet in the hearts of every human, the same fire still burned. The memory of what it took to reach this peace. The monuments of the fallen stood tall, not as symbols of war, but as reminders of resilience. Every year, on the day the Echelon Armada fell, humans looked to the sky and remembered the moment when they spoke in the only language the galaxy truly understood. It was not the language of words or peace or mercy. It was the language of strength, unity, and action. And so the story of humanity became eternal. They were not gods. They were not monsters. They were simply beings who had learned that survival demands more than hope. It demands will. The galaxy would never again mistake humanity's kindness for weakness. The stars themselves seemed to whisper their legacy. They thought humanity would pardon. Instead, we spoke the only tongue they understood. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, humanity still watched, silent and patient, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as the guardians of a truth that could never die. That mercy without memory is nothing, and peace without strength is just another cage waiting to close. Because in the end, it was never about vengeance. It was about balance, and humanity had become the balance that the galaxy would remember forever.